Please welcome to the stage, Tariq Shaukat.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tariq Shaukat. I am president of Google Cloud, overseeing our work with our partners and with our industry verticals. And I'm delighted to be here today for our Customer Innovation Series, really to highlight some of our customers in different industry verticals. You're going to hear from a number of our customers today about their stories in their words across multiple industries, whether energy, media and entertainment, and gaming, and retail. And so I'm very excited to kick this off. We will be hearing first from Boris from the Chaos Group. Chaos, and they'll all tell you a little bit more about themselves, but Chaos is one of the leaders in the media industry, particularly in the rendering space. They're also the only firm coming up today that has won an Academy Award for contributions to CGI, I believe, last year. That'll be followed by Carl from Ubisoft, the makers of Assassin's Creed, as well as a number of other gaming titles. And then Carl, different Carl, from Aker BP in the energy space, one of the most progressive energy companies, and a real leader in using data and analytics to further what they're doing in the energy space. Andreas will follow Carl from the Metro AG. They are one of the largest B2B wholesalers in the world, operating in over 30 countries. And then last but not least, Orit will join us from Outbrain. Outbrain, as you probably know, is one of the largest advertisers out there. They operate on 35,000 websites and deliver over 200 billion content recommendations to their customers. So very, very excited to have these customers here to really share their stories. And without further ado, let me welcome Boris to the stage. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. How are you? You good? You want to see something awesome, right? I don't know, but I can't see you, so let's start. My name is Boris Simandov. I'm engineering director at Chaos Group. And at Chaos Group, we are a global leader in computer graphics. So, let's talk about 3D rendering. 3D rendering is really awesome stuff. Let's talk about ray tracing, how we are actually producing those images, right? It is absolutely the best way to create exactly what the eye sees. And you can create almost everything. You can create virtual worlds that actually they don't exist. From designs of the world's most futuristic cities, to the self-driving cars of tomorrow, to characters that you can feel are real. That is actually Taros from Avengers, Infinity War, and that character was brought to life by the artist from Digital Domain. At Chaos Group, we've spent the last 20 years perfecting the ray tracing technology. Last year, our software, V-Ray, won an Academy Award for contribution to the movie industry. Our mission is to help people visualize anything they can imagine, right? V-Ray was used in more than 200 movies, and some of them are like Black Panther, Captain America, Deadpool, even Star Wars. But before you see those pretty images on the big screen or your television set, we need to solve a really hard computational problem. And here is the problem. Right now, to render a blockbuster movie, studios use a lot of computers just to crunch data. And it's really costly, and it's really hard to maintain. I have no idea if in the audience there are any 3D artists, and you have tried the public clouds, but you know it's really, really hard to set up, to monitor, to orchestrate everything in the public clouds. So it's a very complex process. That's why we created V-Ray Cloud. So it doesn't really matter if you're working in a top VFX studio or you're sitting in your basement at home with your small laptop or workstation. Your workstation can become a supercomputer or your laptop. What we are really doing is bringing the cloud down to everyone, connecting your workstation, your laptop, directly to the infinity power of the cloud. And I'll show you how. So that's 3D Studio Max, and this is the choice of some of our 3D artists. Of course, could be Maya. Some of our host applications could be SketchUp. You can just click the button of V-Ray Cloud, and then you're gonna get the image almost instantly rendered in the cloud. You're gonna get the final renderer, right? So you're gonna take care about moving your data, provision virtual machines or everything. What we are calling that process is like serverless rendering. You don't have to care about any servers or anything. Do you see that image, right? It's behind me, I don't know. Yeah, it's actually, that's a renderer. It's not a photo. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that awesome? It is so simple. One click of a button. To turn ray tracing into one-click workflow, we have to solve a number of problems. And think about massive scalability. Think about crazy VM orchestrations in the cloud. Think about huge data transfers that are actually happening behind the scenes. And in order to solve that problem, we team up with Google, and of course with the power of GCP and all the services that they provide, we are able to actually create that service on top of the platform that Google built. While working together, we found out that we can take full advantage of GCP and the robust infrastructure, extremely high speed of the network, internal network between the virtual machines, super high speed of the storage and reliability of the Google Cloud Storage service. We are so happy of the reliability and all the services we can call and use just out of the box, like JKE, that's Kubernetes. I'm sure you're using that, or at least you're familiar. Or GCS, massive scalability, massive scalability. We're talking about gigabytes of data transfers. Or just to name some of them, like PubSub, like BigQuery, ManageSQL, Data Studio, of course, and of course, global load balancer of Google. So these are our building blocks, and they're absolutely indispensable. In that way, we are putting our effort, development effort, in what really matters, instead of building low-level infrastructure. All right, I hope you like it. So far, I've shown you how we are using GCP to reinvent ray tracing, how ray tracing is done in the cloud, how we are making cloud rendering accessible to everyone. But what is next? Can we think beyond just the pure rendering? Can we reinvent the entire 3D workflow from the concept to the final image, to the final beauty shot? I think we can. So let me tell you a story. before artists get to the actual rendering, they need to first create a 3D model. This is exactly what you see on the screen. This is a beautiful house, my dream house, let's say. And they have to apply materials. They have to choose from thousands of parameters and settings. And yeah, that video is a little bit earlier, but whatever. What you see on the screen is like we're moving all the data to the cloud, and then we are doing a lot of small renderers with machine learning and massive scalability, and then we are applying that back so the 3D artist can usually just pick and click instead of doing a lot of crazy options and rendering so many times locally on the machine. So that was one of the things that we really want to push forward. That's inside research and development and in the moment. But with the power of cloud, we can deliver that to our 3D artists. And what we like to call that is like, how to complete your design, right? It's like the way Gmail is doing, Smart Compose, but imagine that for 3D rendering, right? Super awesome. Very exciting about that. And now, when the creative process is finished, you have to render the beauty shot, right? The final image, super high-res beauty shot. Usually that will take, I don't know, could be hours, could be days on a local workstation. The typical workstation, that could be like 4, 8, 16 cores, doesn't matter how much. But can we do something about that? We have the massive power of the cloud. And of course, we can. So let's see it. Here, we're submitting our job to the cloud. And we're gonna use thousands of cores to render a single image. Isn't that beautiful? So from 10 hours or 2 days of rendering and waiting on your machine, imagine that is rendering in 2 minutes because of the enormous power that you get in the cloud. We are putting the compute where it should be, in the cloud. And you're free to use your workstation with modeling or something else, right? So continue to do art. This is the power of V-Ray in Google Cloud, democratizing rendering and creating art with a single click of a button. The service is in beta now, so use it, break it, and give us your feedback. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage, Carl Dion.
Hello. So does anyone play video games? Few ones? Good. Ubisoft is a French game company. We are the third largest publisher in the world. We have 14,000 employees across 40 studios worldwide. 80% of these employees do work on game development directly. They have today millions of players connect to our games. Bottom line, our job is to create worlds where these players have fun. You may know some of our brands, Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, Just Dance, For Honor. If you don't, perhaps your kids do. And no, before you ask, Fortnite is not one of our games. That's a bit sad. The game industry is changing. Releasing a game used to be the final objective, but now it's only the beginning. We used to release games as shipped, as boxed products, but our players are now expecting them as services. They want to have downloadable content. They want to have microtransactions. They want to play a game for hundreds of hours with content that continues to evolve and change long after the game has shipped. And this is a trend that continues. This change has a huge impact on the way that we have to think about our games. And I'll talk a bit about the challenges later, but let me first explain what a game is. So the first obvious piece in a game is the game client itself. That's what you see when you launch a game in a game console, that's what you see. It's a thick client. It has gigs and gigs of data. That's pretty big. To give an example, the latest Assassin's Creed Odyssey is 42 gigs of data to download. So that makes it pretty difficult to update. That's a bit of a challenge. The game client itself is going to connect to a number of online services. These services range from very game-specific services done by the game developer for the game itself to more standard services that could be done by Ubisoft or even by the console manufacturer. These services implement stuff like social features, like friends and clans, or they could be more competitive features with leaderboards and challenges, tournaments. In the end, you can think of these as just standard web-based microservices. There's nothing that special about them, and they're done with the same tech stacks that you could be using in your day-to-day development. There's one piece in the multiplayer session that do stand out, and that's the game server. So in a multiplayer game session, the game server sits between a player's action and what the others will see. So as such, the latency between the game client and the game server is very important and has a direct impact to the player's experience. And that's even more true when you look at a game like Rainbow Six, for example, which is an e-sport. Then you want to have a precise player experience. So moving to game as services puts a huge pressure on this model, and that's creating some challenges. The first thing is to be able to meet our players' expectation, we need to be able to deploy content much faster. And this is true not only at the service layer, which is something that we sort of know how to do as an industry, but that's true to the entire ecosystem, so including these clients, which I mentioned were so big and thick. So one solution is to move some of the logic from the clients down to services. As we do so, we're building microservices that now have a direct impact to the player experience. So we need to be able to scale. In our case, our load is very, very dynamic and can be sometimes pretty tricky to predict when we have events such as the free weekend, for example. The game servers are a special challenge. Since they need to be close to the players, they need to be distributed across the world on dozens of data centers. They're also pretty CPU savvy. To run our data centers, we currently peak at 100,000 virtual machines. Half of these machines are just for one single game. Now, 100,000, that's a big number. And considering it's worldwide, it means that it comes close to the capacity of some data centers sometimes. So it makes the typical blue-green deployment quite of a challenge. The game industry and the game development is becoming so complex that isolated teams can no longer keep the pace. To succeed, we have to be able to collaborate. We have to be able to share between our brands as well as outside with the rest of the industry. Now, I think that collaboration is good, but it's even better if we could come with some code sharing. And that's where Kubernetes plays an important role. It's an industry standard. Makes it possible for our teams to focus on the game logic, on the service itself. And we don't need to care about the plumbing this is something that we can leave to Kubernetes. Good example of collaboration is Agonize. Actually, I was discussing with Mark Mandel from Google a while back, and my question was, what are Google going to do regarding game servers? Do you have any plans? So we chatted for a little while, and we quickly came to the conclusion that we had a nice collaboration opportunity where we would be able to leverage Google's expertise of deploying containers at scale with Ubisoft's understanding of what a game server is and needs. And that's how Agonize was created. So it's an open source project that was born out of this collaboration. Makes it possible to deploy game servers on Kubernetes clusters. Now, because it's based on Kubernetes, it means that we can deploy on physical data centers, where we can actually reduce our cost, or we can also deploy in the cloud, where we can more easily handle the burst. Agonize is part of a broader solution at Ubisoft, and that's a product that is still under development. So I was chatting with Mark a bit before. The next challenges that the team are going to face, it's how to be able to scale up and down these clusters, as well as how we're going to support multi-clusters. So I don't know about you, to me that sounds like interesting challenges. So if you want to poke Mark and collaborate, feel free to do so. As we are continuing to work, and as the industry is changing, we are building a complete ecosystem made up of hundreds of applications and microservices. Technologies like Kubernetes plays an important role to be able to enable sharing, both between our teams at Ubisoft, as well as outside of Ubisoft, as we've seen with Agonize. Now, we're not unique. I guess that many of you do face similar challenges at your own industries. I guess that's the reason we're all in the same conference. So I think that we can gain a lot by sharing and collaborating with each other. Now, I want to leave you with two things. First, I think that the game industry is a very cool place to work. It's a cool place to be. And we're hiring. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage, Carl Hersvik.
Yeah, it looks like the Carls are taking over the world today. Okay, good morning, everybody, or rather good afternoon. My name is Carl-Johnny Hersvik, and I am the CEO of Aker BP. So Aker BP is probably a little bit of a different company than what you see portrayed in the tech industry today. We're a fully-fledged E&P company. That means that we produce oil and gas. And we've grown pretty much like a startup. When I joined in 2014, we've had 1,200 barrels of production. This morning, we had 155,000 barrels of production. We've grown from around 400 employees to about 2,000 employees in just 4 years. And we've determined to be the spearhead of digitalization in the E&P industry. Currently, we are one of the biggest independent E&P companies in Europe. And actually, if you look at the Oslo Stock Exchange, we're the 4th biggest company in terms of market cap on the Norwegian Stock Exchange in 4 years. Quite a remarkable story. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. The oil and gas industry, and particularly also in Aker BP, have a huge challenge ahead of ourselves. We need to reduce our environmental footprint, we need to cut our cost, we need to get productivity up. The E&P industry has not been a part of the digital revolution. Some of this industry are still stuck in practices that prevailed in the mid-80s. So to be very specific, we need to utilize the power of digitalization, robotics, data analytics, machine learning, to increase our productivity, reduce our environmental footprint, and get costs down. When it comes to this picture, I just love the colors of these robots. So, to do that, we need a very specific agenda. And for Aker BP, we've been very, very clear. We want to reshape the whole way we do acquisitions and work with our partners. Rather than transactions, we want long-term alliances. We're following what we call a lean process, that is optimizing the time it takes to carry out a certain process. And that's because flow efficiency or friction reduction is what's necessary if you're going to digitalize these processes. And we've determined to have a flexible business model that allows growth at an unprecedented pace, quality in our deliveries, unfailing quality in our operational deliveries, and also surviving a highly volatile market. And we want to lead in digitalization of the oil and gas industry. So today I'll talk about digitalization for the next 5 minutes. We want to digitalize all our operations from cradle to grave. And we believe that the key drivers will be increased productivity, much better quality, reduce the time we spend on different processes, and at the same time, reduce the environmental footprint and improve the safety of our employees and the surroundings we work in. And we believe that in order to do so, we need to do things differently and challenge the whole way this industry works and operates. We wouldn't mind to be called the Googles or the Spotifys of the oil and gas industry. Now, this is all talk, so let's get concrete. We have determined after a lot of trial and errors, I think we've used almost 2 years now to get this right, that there are 3 things that are fundamentally important when it comes to applying industrial Internet of Things practices to the oil and gas industry. So first of all, data is the fundament. And in our industry, that means that there's lots and lots of data, gigabytes of data, megabytes per second streaming through our systems. But they're largely unstructured, uncontextualized, and data ingestion is a huge problem. Second is to make use of all this data, and sometimes just simple visualization can do 80% of the job. Other times you need high-end artificial intelligence like neural networks or deep learning algorithms. And the third one is to make these data available to the users, to the operators, but also to everybody else in the industry. This is why we talk about data liberation. So, a concrete example. At Ivar Aasen, one of our platforms put into operation about 2 years ago, this is a concrete example of 15,000 tons of digital operations. Roughly 60,000 tags streaming live data at somewhere between 1,000 and 10 hertz, continuous. We are streaming through our data platform time series in the range of 250 to 300,000 tags at frequencies. Roughly 60,000 tags streaming live data at somewhere between 1,000 and 10 hertz, continuously. In total, we are streaming through from 1 to 1,000, massive amounts of data. And the latency is around 7/10 to a data platform, hundreds of a second. On any device, anywhere, wherever you are. That's incredible performance. So in order to put this data to work, we are implementing devices such as mobile phones or tablets to put the data into the hands of the operators, such as the one that you can see here. That means he can read the digital numbers, he can figure out what's going on without having to access the systems directly. He can get all the tag information, drawings, documentation, time series, non-conformities, deviations from standard operations at his fingertips in real time. And He can create a work order if he needs to, send a signal, and collaborate with an onshore group or with a supplier, also in real time, through his tablet. We actually started using virtual reality mechanisms such as HoloLenses, but we're streaming so much data that the operators got confused. They prefer the tablets. Now, if you move to the next one, we're also creating full digital twins of the assets. So this is a real digital twin of Ivar Aasen with a high-precision 3D model. That means you can stream data, live data, directly into the 3D model. By looking at the pipe or pointing a camera at the pipe, you can see the content of the pipe, the flow rates, the pressure, etc., etc. But you also can identify exactly where you are in this maze of pipe. You can identify which systems you're working on and where it's ending and where the errors are, etc., etc. This is just the beginning. It will revolutionize the way we do business. And ultimately, it will change the way we acquire and collaborate with our vendors. And the best of it, we haven't invented any of it. We've just implemented praxis that is otherwise used in the onshore industry. So, what are the key learnings after 2 years of digitalization in the oil and gas industry? First, you need to get the right data and put it into the right context. Without the right data, there's no value. You need to process the data, contextualize it, systemize it, and make it available, not just to yourself, but to everybody. And finally, the data has to be shared. If we, as a company, is going to be competitive, and the Norwegian continental shelf is going to be competitive. So that's why we are proudly flying the flag of data liberation, and we have implemented the Open Data Institution, where we're pushing out real live data, and we're inviting everybody to join. The data is out there, so use it. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Andreas Wittger.
Yeah, good afternoon also from my side. After all this virtual reality and gaming stuff, I would like to try to attach your attention or to increase your attention and passion for modern retail. So you might wonder why I choose a phrase which is called Handel ist Wandel, which is quite popular for everybody who's in the retail business. But why I have chosen this one for an international conference like the Google Next in London? The reason is quite simple. It says, at least in my language, what modern retail is about. It's about continuous change. Sorry. My assumption is that there are not too many German natives here in the room, so therefore I've asked our host, because beside a good cloud infrastructure, they have also other great products, to help me on that one. So translate Handel ist Wandel, what does it mean? And actually, it's about trade is change. Some people perceive modern retail on a global scale still as out-fashioned and dusty, but it's not. It's quite contrary, and it's a business which is in continuous change. And there's one global retailer and wholesaler who proved that for more than 5 decades, and I'm passionate about working for this global B2B wholesale company. In a nutshell, 36 billion euro sales, more than 150,000 employees worldwide, serving 21 million customers for products and services and passion, operating more than 1,000 stores worldwide and with a global presence of 35 countries. But that is only the one part. The other part is the tech unit which makes all the stuff happen which we need. There's one tech unit, and there's mostly the biggest software company you never heard of, which is the Metronome, which is a tech unit of Metro. And I'm happy that some of the colleagues of Metronome are here with me in the room. It's a great support, And I just heard backstage that a lot of people also watching the stream live now at home. So hello from London, privileged to work with you every day. So what we're doing, and that's what I mean, is the unexpected things modern retail provides. We at Metronome, we are developing digital products and services which are just unmatched in the global wholesale industry. Our mission is transforming a global store-based business in a truly seamless omni-channel business worldwide. What that includes: an e-commerce platform on global scale, state-of-the-art logistics solutions, a lot of innovations on store level, such as in-store navigation, self-checkout, and ultimate personalization. And here comes Google Cloud into the game. When we talk about global operations, we have chosen on a partnership with Google actually out of 3 main reasons. Number 1, unlimited scalability. Number 2, ultimate performance, and a security level which is top-notch and on the edge what you can achieve at the moment. But there's much more where we at Metronome participate on the partnership with Google. Technology is one thing. Google is supporting us here with the Google Cloud, and you might have heard it yesterday where we have just announced also the cooperation Google Cloud, SAP, and Metro, where we consolidate our finance systems on the SAP landscape, moving that one into the Google Cloud engine. So that is one part. Another important part when it comes to organizational design. We have built software teams across the globe, autonomous teams, which we also have now built in the last 1.5, 2 years. A product design which is, I would say, 100% or 150% focused and user-centric, and Google helps us also in setting the strategy. Because what we would like to achieve is serving every day our customers better. And in order to do so, we need to improve our customer insight, which you can truly based on analytics and targeted experience and offers. A keyword is BigQuery on that one, where we had the support from Google every day. But in a nutshell, and that is my message here on that one, and as I see, I'm pretty much into my speaking slot and into my time. Technology matters, but people count. And that is what we do, and we focus at Metronome. We have more than 2,000 highly educated, highly passionate software developers, engineers, infrastructure engineers in place, fighting every day for this mission to digitalize the global wholesale business worldwide in 35 countries. And if you are, as I am, thrilled by modern retail and the technology and the power technology now provides, just drop me a short message, and I would be happy to set the pace in food and technology together with you. Save 2 minutes. Thank you for that.
Please welcome to the stage, Orit Yaron.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here today and share with you our recent experience of migrating our Hadoop research environment from on-premise bare metal into GCP. For those of you who are not familiar with Outbrain, we are the world-leading content discovery platform. We serve over 300 billion personalized recommendations every month to over 800 million unique users worldwide. You can find us on premium publishers such as CNN, Sky News, The Guardian, and others. The majority of our infrastructure is based on bare metal, and we manage a fleet of over 6,000 physical servers that is based in 3 data centers. I'm a strong believer that everything one does needs to start with one question, and that is why. Once you have good enough answer, this reason will give you the focus and will help you overcome challenges. I'm married, and I have 2 amazing kids, Danielle and Guy, and every year the 4 of us go on 1 week on a boat, just the 4 of us. This may sound very exciting, maybe even romantic, so maybe I'll add 2 data points into the equation. First, I have seasick, and second, as I'm sure my husband will be happy to testify, I tend to be a bit picky on where I sleep, especially during my vacations. And I'm not sure how many of you spend a night on a 42-foot boat, but I can tell you that it's no luxury. So one would ask, why do I keep doing it year over year, again and again? And the reason is that I found that the 4 of us needing to operate the boat, just us, creates a very special bond for our family. And this reasoning, this answer to my why question, gives me the focus to not just overcome the challenges, but to actually enjoy this type of vacation. When public cloud started to gain momentum, we were approached by different vendors trying to convince us to migrate all of our infrastructure and services into the cloud. But we couldn't find a good enough answer to the why question. We couldn't find the right incentive to go ahead and do it. The thing was that we looked at our infrastructure and services as one package. It was either we are all in or all out. When I go out to have ice cream, which, by the way, is one of my favorite food, I don't want to need to choose whether I'm going to take vanilla or chocolate. I want to have both, and maybe even a bit more than that. Similar with infrastructure. I came to the point where I thought, why do I need to choose if I want to be in bare metal environment or in cloud environment? Why can't I enjoy both? This led us to take a different perspective into migrating workloads into the cloud. Instead of looking at a whole package, we started to look at what are the strengths the cloud can provide us. We were mainly looking at elasticity, the ability to scale up and down the resource as we need it. We thought that that could be a very cost-effective model. We looked at the ability to answer needs and requirements in short time and reduce our time to market. And we also found that storage cost is relatively cheap in the cloud and data protection is easy. And that was a very good fit to a project we had coming up. And that was migrating our research cluster. In a nutshell, our Hadoop environment consists within two types of clusters. One are the online clusters, which are being used for the serving of the recommendations. Those are relatively small clusters based in 2 data centers for redundancy. And the workload on those clusters is very stable and constant. In addition to that, we have our research environment, which is based only in 1 data center, was set up over 6 years ago, and gradually grew into a capacity of over 550 physical servers with 6 petabytes of data. While our online environment was constantly updated and upgraded, our research environment was treated as a second-class citizen and was lagging behind, up to the point that we realized that we have grown a small monster and that we are dealing way too much with tech debt. It was time for us to manage that tech debt. Looking at the research cluster goals, we found out to have a good match with the cloud. We are talking about very elastic workload that changes depending on the models that we are trying and the analysis that we are doing to the data. Sometimes we have very big research that is required and sometimes small. We wanted to be able to support all the new technologies, and investment in hardware was required in order to do that. again, because the hardware was becoming old. And last but not least, we also wanted to have data protection. We are talking about 6 petabytes of data. And to have that in multiple data centers would mean to invest a lot of money. As we said, it looked like a very good match to the cloud strength. However, migrating such a large workload into the cloud was not something we were familiar with. And actually, out of all the options that we had at hand, that was the option we were familiar with at least. On the other hand, we saw a very big potential for a large gain. And that gain was our answer to the why. Why should we jump into the water and start a POC that will teach us on what we need to understand? So on the POC, first, we didn't look into checking the Dataproc technology. We were sure that Dataproc technology is working well. However, we were looking to check how well the fit is for us. We needed it, for example, to have very good compatibility with our online environment. Second, we were trying to understand what would the cost implication would be. It is very difficult to have cost estimation when you're comparing on-premise, always-on, bare metal environment with a cloud one. On top of that, we wanted to try and manage and understand the cultural gap and the knowledge gap that our engineers will need to have once migrated to the cloud. Keep in mind that for us, as this is the first big workload going into the cloud, it's also a very big cultural change. Having the fact that an engineer can run a query and it was a mistake, but you would end up with a hefty bill on your hand, that's something to consider. On top of that, we were looking to see how it feels like to work with the Google team in real-life scenario and with real-life problems, as we were looking for a partner and not just a vendor. With the POC, it was a success. We simply jumped in the water and went into a full implementation, and I won't go into too much details on that. But in general, it was very stressful from time perspective, as we also had to renegotiate our on-premise contract, and we wanted to reduce our footprint there to gain financial cost. So after 3 months, we were done with the migration. That's really taking a very long story, making it short. 3 months, and we're done. And we saw gains on all fronts. First, on the technology side, the fact that we were able to have, again, compatibility with the online environment, run new technologies such as Spark, Tez, and other. On the cost side, taking advantage of the elastic workload, auto-scaling, and the reduction of the footprint within our data center, we've managed to show 40% decrease in the cost of this environment. And last but not least, the culture gain. The fact that we are now working with cutting-edge technologies, less handling of tech debt, and the ability to say yes for everything, every new request, really gave a boost to the morale of the team and helped us recruit new talent, which is one of the biggest challenges these days for, I think, almost all companies. We have several thoughts on additional projects that could help us enjoy the strengths of the cloud. However, as the lead of the tech infrastructure organization at Outbrain, one of the biggest gains from this project is the fact that we enabled Outbrain to be able to choose from a larger variety of technologies. And how we make this choice, that's very simple. We only need to answer one simple question, and that is, why? Thank you.
All right, well, what a wonderful afternoon and amazing stories from all of the different panelists. If you could all just join me in giving them a big round of applause as well. And I'd like to just summarize a couple of key points that I noted down while sitting in the audience. I think it's really inspiring to me to see how thoughtful each of the different stories were about what they're trying to do with the cloud, but more importantly, what they're trying to do with their business and how they are approaching this. Many of the different customers talked about the word transformation, or digitization, how they want to change their business, how they want to see the future of their business. And we really do see that as a consistent theme across a lot of the work that we do. Of course, everyone talked about the centricity of data, how important data is, how important, I think there was the flag of the Data Liberation Front, how important the freeing that data is to the future of your business, and the power of the cloud to really drive elasticity and scalability, security and performance into the operation. And I think it was very interesting to me to see how many threads you could really connect across all of those different stories. But perhaps most important are two final points that I would make. One of them is how many of the different stories talked about the ecosystem and the importance of partnership in the ecosystem, not just partnership between them and Google, but really them, Google, their customers, the technology environment around them, in terms of making that transformation successful, in terms of making the migration successful. And that is something that we are very, very passionate about, is how do we not just connect directly to our customers and to our partners, but how do we really make the collective come together through events like Next, but also one-on-one and in those group settings. So that ecosystem is tremendously important. And then I think Orit said it at the very end here about how culture matters and how culture is really everything. And one of the benefits that we do see when people start moving to the cloud, when they embrace the agility, when they embrace the democratization of the data, areas like that, what we see is that it really does drive a culture change. It drives a speed change, an urgency change, but really an ability to experiment, to get things done, to really free people up to do what matters to them. I think one of the slides said, technology matters, but people count. And I think that's a really nice way of summarizing it. So with that, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you in particular to the speakers who shared their stories.